And now's the time when things are shifting. There's going to be a new world order out there.
Fellow Americans, I've said on several occasions that I wouldn't comment about the recent congressional hearings on the Iran-Contra matter.
Wow. Happy Sunday, everyone. Welcome to the What is Truth Podcast. I'm your host, Wheezy. I am joined by my big brother, who today goes by the name of Ezra, but previously he was known as Robert. What's up, Ezra?
Formerly known as.
What's up, my man?
Good, man. Nothing but a lazy Sunday afternoon. You know, I spent was it Friday at the beach? So little sunburn, and just mellowed out, man.
Hell yeah. Yeah, so when was it? About a couple of weeks ago, we did a show. I believe the show was called Insurrection. I can't remember the number of the show. I think it was in the 250s. So if anyone's interested, it was a show that I did with my brother, Ezra, as well as Twisted and my buddy, John Brissom. And it was a great show. And a lot of the folks really enjoyed your takes, man. It was a great show. And so, and I mentioned then, I didn't know if you wanted to do the show or not. I didn't know how you were going to react to it. And man, you kicked ass. You kicked a lot of ass, if I may be honest. But I was like, dude, let's do a show on the Yaqui. You and I, we have the same father. We have different mothers. And so on your mother's side, you are Yaqui Indian. And so I've always been fascinated with the Native American heritage of our culture, Mexican culture. Yeah. I think a lot of people don't realize, a lot of my audience, especially, there's a lot of them from Europe, so they may not fully understand. I've got people that listen from in Australia, in Canada.
Oh, wow.
Hell yeah, man. It's a good reach. And so for us, we already know we're mixed. I'm probably a little bit more European mixture than I am indigenous. You're more indigenous than you are European.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But for the most part, we're all mixed, in one shape, form, or another. And a lot of the topics that I like to cover is railing against the government and government corruption. And being of indigenous heritage myself and being damn proud of it, the indigenous history is very similar, man. The resistance to government tyranny, whether it's the Spanish or when it became the Mexican government or even the American government, the resistance against government overreach and trying to get away from it. And one of the best examples is the Yaqui Indians, man, through the Yaqui Wars, through the Yaqui Resistance. They are I think the only tribe that never surrendered, technically surrendered. And so I just wanted to preface everything. But before we get started, my man, give as much or as little as information about yourself, and maybe even some of your indigenous backgrounds and examples of you growing up and whatnot.
Yeah, well, by the way, I'm your big brother Ezra, use another alias, and I guess you could say I am of Yaqui, or also known as Yoemi. or Yoma people from Sonora. Originally, that's where they're from the Yaqui River. There's like, I believe, oh gosh, 10, 12 original tribes that all lived on the Yaqui River. And these villages um, mostly were nomadic and also farmers. And they would raise crops like the Three Sisters, corn, maize, squash, and beans. Uh, and then other types of crops, but they would also hunt because they lived out. A lot of people don't realize that northern Mexico is very mountainous and it's arid and it's desert, but it has all these regions, and also access to the coastline to the Gulf of Mexico, also known, formerly known as the Gulf of Mexico, yeah, the Sea of Cortez. So the Yaquis would hunt, and they had a very diversified diet. It was mostly protein, but they did raise crops, as I said before. And these villages would interact and trade with one another. And historically, they've always been very territorial, very staunch in defending, their territory, being autonomous. Even within each tribe, they kept their autonomy and they respected their boundaries and borders, but they actually traded with other Indian tribes too. So they weren't just always warring and fighting. We're talking about like before the Spanish conquest of Mexico. And I can't remember the exact dates. I actually got it outlined because the Yaqui Wars were almost like 200 years, and with the Spanish occupation, and then never mind the French, and also the Mexican government as well. And there were some skirmishes with the U.S. government, but it was rare. And that happened like I think in 1911, 1912. And there's actually some Yaqui rebels thought that some of the U.S. soldiers were Mexican soldiers, so they shot at them. And I think they killed one U.S. soldier, and the U.S. Army retaliated, to defend themselves. And I guess they captured them, and during, I guess the chase with one another, they were able to wound one of the Yaqui chiefs, the main leader of the band. And so all of them got arrested. They brought them back to Arizona, and the chief died the next day. I can't remember his name because there were so many skirmishes, so many battles. Like it's hard to keep up. And apparently the Yaquis were let go. I guess they were able to communicate and find out that it was by accident. Okay, we killed one of your guys, you killed one of our guys. And one of the rare instances where the U.S. military or government let them go afterwards. Which was pretty amazing for the time, and I guess they felt sympathy for the Yaquis because these guys would, cross over the border and to the U.S. and work in farmlands, raise money, and buy weapons to go back and give it to their tribe and fight the Mexican government and ranchers. So, am I being long-winded here?
No, you're good, man. We can just wanted to hear some of your, some of the information that you had, and then just have like a little back and forth. And like I stated, it's just, to me, it's fascinating, the whole resistance to government and tyranny and whatnot. There's so many examples. It's not just the Yaquis, just throughout all, with all the indigenous cultures. You have the massacre at Wounded Knee. That's a good example that I like to bring up because a lot of people, especially depending on where you fall on the ideological spectrum, if you're lean to the left, you're kind of against guns. You're like, oh, I want gun control. I want gun control. And so what I'd like to bring up is the massacre, the quote unquote massacre at Wounded Knee, where the government said they essentially went, who was it? The Lakota, right? I think it was the Lakota. that
Lakota Sioux, I believe.
yeah, that the U.S. cavalry went over there to confiscate their guns. The Lakota didn't want to give up their guns. They're like, nah, man, fuck off.
Yeah.
And they went in there like, no, it'll be good. It'll be good. They gave up their guns. As soon as they gave up the guns, the U.S. cavalry massacred them pretty much.
Yeah.
Some of the accounts will call it the battle at Wounded Knee, but it was no fucking battle. It was a massacre, and most of the people killed was women and children. And so that's a good example of what happens when you turn in your guns to the government. You know, that's one of the examples. Another, and then I guess bringing it back to the Yaqui resistance. You showed that it goes back centuries. First, when the Spanish try to come up there, and then the French, and then one interesting thing about the Yaqui, you have the Mexican Yaqui, right, in Sonora.
Yeah.
And then you have some Yaqui in Arizona.
Yeah. The thing is, around the 1890s, early 1900s, the Mexican government really made a push and effort to basically annihilate and remove the Yaqui from Sonora. And their program was that of extinction. Like whatever they would capture, men and women, children, they would highly likely kill the men. The women and children were sold to slavery to the Yucatan Peninsula and also Oaxaca, the sugarcane plantations. So the whole process was to eliminate them, remove them culturally from their homelands. Because coincidentally, in those homelands, they found silver, copper, some gold, but mostly silver. And then Sonora is also known. It's basically like it's cowboy land, for those that don't know. A lot of ranches, cattle, beef. The best beef and some of the best beef in Mexico comes from Sonora. And so it was basically a lot of Mexican oligarchs, cattle ranchers that were propagating and sustaining, the Yaqui, genocide. That's what it was. And that's how my family wound up going to Baja, like in the late 1800s, early 19th century. My grandfather was born in 1916. So I'm trying to find out when exactly his family came to Baja, but I know that his father was from Sonora, and I believe he was from the village of Bacom, one of the main Yaqui tribes of Sonora. I believe it's Bacom, but again, during that period, a lot of the old timers, especially, I'm not talking about the boomers, but like, the greatest generation of the World War II generation, basically, the people that were born like in the early 1900s, never really talked about their past. I just go by anecdotal by what I remember my grandfather telling me and some of my stories my grandmother told me, but a lot of it was suppressed. You really didn't want to say you were Yaqui because it was a bounty for you. So you would integrate into Mexican society and say you were Mexican. And I didn't find out until, maybe in my teens. That's when my grandfather started opening up. I remember talking to him in Yaqui in the Yoemi language, but I don't remember it much anymore, Once in a great while, I'll remember something, but, it's gone, As I've gotten older, I've forgotten a lot of the words and a lot of the, sentences and whatnot. But in those days, my grandparents never really talked about their past. They would talk about their relatives, the family, but never about why they wanted to go into Baja. And like, you were saying earlier, there's Yaquis in Arizona. They started moving out there like in the 1900s, I believe, and they established. They were federally recognized in the 1970s. I think a year or two before I was born. And there's Guadalupe, and I can't remember the another town, but they're federally recognized, and those are some of the descendants that migrate from Sonora to Arizona, and there's some in Texas. I believe it's in Lubbock, and then there's also Yaquis, like I said, in Fresno. So these guys literally try to get as far away as possible, and they never really talked about their upbringing until years later. Let me put it this way. I think people started, talking about their native identity until Dances with Wolves came out, because it was, you never really said that you were this and that. You always said you were Mexican. And even my mom would tell me, like, when she was living in LA and living in East LA, she would say she was Mexican. But there's some cultural norms and attitudes that that Native people have that like, say, mainstream Mexican population have. Like, it's almost kind of like we look like you, but we're not really like you. Like practices. I noticed little things like that as a kid too. Like, I remember speaking Yaqui in Spanish and English, and I thought that was just regular, English, but it wasn't. So I remember kids in LA when I was a kid in kindergarten, and some of the Mexican kids that would come in, they were like, "What are you talking, dude? I don't understand you."
Well,
Yeah.
one of the things that I just recently learned was the Yaqui language is part of the Uto-Aztecan language,
Yes.
which
Yes.
encompasses the Nahua. It encompasses what the Utes natives spoke. Pretty much a lot of the major languages in the Southwest area. And for a lot of people that don't know much, I don't think it's done purposely. I just think it's just you don't get taught this anywhere. And a lot of people sometimes have this misconception that all Indians are the same. It's just Indians.
Yeah. No.
They don't realize that there's Native American cultures, and you grab someone from a whole different other region, or even the same region,
Yeah.
and they can't even understand each other because the
No.
languages are so different. It's so, to make other people that aren't familiar with indigenous culture understand, it's kind of like take the Europeans. You have people that speak Spanish, you have people that speak German, you have
Yeah.
people that speak English, you have people that speak French, all kinds of different languages in that little area in Europe. And it's the same thing with indigenous tribes. And so the way linguists like to group languages together, there's one major branch and then little variations that branch off. For example, the Romans spoke Latin, and so a lot of the Romance languages, if you will, a lot of the Latin languages would be Italian, Spanish, French, Portuguese, and so on and so forth. Those are considered Romance languages based off the original Latin. And so when it comes to the Uto-Aztecan is the main branch. And off of that main branch, you have other groups of indigenous tribes, like the Aztecs, who speak the Nahua, but they call themselves the Mexica. A lot of people call them Aztecs, but that's the wrong name. The correct name is the Mexica. They spoke Uto-Aztecan, and apparently the Yaqui. I had no idea the Yaquis were also part of the Uto-Aztecan
Yes.
family language.
So the Uto-Aztecan is probably, it's like the the Proto language. It was like probably the first main language that came from there, and then it branched off. It's kind of like like you said, Indo-European languages. Like Latin is one of the main ones, but I'm pretty sure before Latin,
some kind of Greek or some shit.
Greek and Etruscan possibly. Again, I can't remember like all the stuff I learned in a linguistics class, course I took many years ago, but there's always that first proto language. But yeah, I believe the Apache and the Comanche have a similar language, like Uto-Aztecan, but different dialect. Okay. And again, I wish I could remember some of the stuff, but I can't anymore of the language. And I couldn't give you, anything, similar to make comparisons to, because I just can't remember. It's been so long. And unfortunately, my mother didn't learn the language because she was forced not to learn it. You're going to learn English and Spanish. That's it. And so, again, it was like for her own protection too, because even if it was LA, but then like some of the Mexican kids weren't really nice if you were really Indian. I mean, I'm being honest.
Yeah,
you had that classism and this and that, and so you never said that you were Indian. You just said you were Mexican, and that was it.
And I think that's how it was in the in those times for sure, man. And
Yeah.
it's crazy how things change now. Now more people, especially on the American side, like if you're of Mexican heritage or whatever, you're more willing to embrace the indigenous side. I find myself embracing more of my indigenous side. But to this day, even in Mexico, you'll have some brown mofos like, oh, I'm not Indian, I'm Spanish. Bitch, you look like
Yeah.
a straight up Aztec. What the hell are you talking about? So that still exists to this day in some parts of Mexico. It's
Oh yeah.
crazy.
Oh, yeah. There's Mexico has always been, as far as I can remember, and even my parents and grandparents, it's always been a classist society.
Yeah.
And again, and it's all stemmed from the Spanish, colonization. Bringing in, uh, I'm more pure. I'm pure Spanish. I'm half. I'm mestizo. I'm mixed. And like, the more indigenous you were, the worse you were treated.
Yeah. And it's crazy how, one thing that stuck out right now when you were talking about how your mother was made to feel shame for speaking her indigenous dialect, and she had to, instead of um proclaiming her heritage, she had to say she was Mexican instead. And around that same time frame, crazily enough, people forget Richie Valance. The movie La Bamba is about Richie Valance, whose real name was Ricardo Valenzuela, who apparently was also Yaqui, but he had to change his name from Ricardo Valenzuela as a young Mexican American to Richie Valance. He had to deny that he was Mexican and instead try to pass off as Italian because of the racism. So it's crazy how there's different levels. You know what I mean? Like you got to deny you're Indian and claim you're Mexican. And then if you're Mexican, you got to deny you're Mexican and claim you're Italian. It's
Yeah.
crazy, bro.
Yeah. Like in LA here, for example, you had these old Mexican families. They were ranchers when they were, when California is part of, when it was Spanish territory. And then once Mexico got its independence from Spain, they became Mexican citizens. And these families basically got kicked out of their homes and whatnot. And these were very wealthy, landed, landowners, they were ranchers, landowners, etc. And sometimes during, once I guess they were U.S. citizens, these families would be, married out or kicked out of their own properties, through generational marriages and whatnot. Did that make sense? Yeah. Okay. And these families, all of a sudden, because originally they were like Mexican descent, all of a sudden it started becoming, oh, I'm Spanish, I'm this and that. Like, are you kidding me?
I know it,
And
bro. When I was in high school, I had a homeboy. He was darker than you. My homie Ricky Gallegos, man, and he was a Chicano, like several generations Chicano,
yeah,
and we be all Chicano pride in school. And then he was like, "That's cool and all, but my parents are from Spain." Like, motherfucker, there ain't no Aztecs in Spain. Shut the fuck up, bro. we would clown him, and he would get mad, bro. He wanted to claim his Spaniard heritage. I'm like, bitch, you got the cactus right on your fucking forehead, bro. Like, knock that shit off, bro. Embrace it. You know what
yeah,
I'm saying?
embrace it. And
Hell
that's the
yeah.
thing, like again, I think it's just years and years of like I want to see
Indoctrination with the class system, right?
assimilation, indoctrination, and also watching movies and whatnot. For example, uh it wasn't cool to be native until I think Dances with Wolves came out. Honestly. And all of a
Yeah.
sudden, people started coming out of the woodwork, like on 1/16th, Cherokee
Yes.
Princes, yada, yada, yada. I'm like, are
Elizabeth
you kidding
Warren,
me?
bro, get
Yeah.
putting that on her little school thing, and she's like, what, 118? It turns out she had no Native American blood, so it was all a sham. She was claiming Native, and she didn't have any fucking Native in her blood. So it
Oh,
went from avoiding to be identified as Native to now like, oh, I'm gonna even make up that I'm fucking Native.
yeah.
The way the pendulum has swung.
And then again, and also like, now because I guess so many people claim being indigenous in the United States that they were trying to get, old birth certificates and historical records and, try to, get some financial aid or grants from the US government. And it got to the point where like some of these reservations had to come out with federal IDs, to be federally recognized, basically an authentic ID that claims that you're, Native American.
Yeah.
And so, and now I've noticed that too. Like I've gone to powwows and this and that, and then it was always, even within Native American culture, it was always like, I have a federal ID. Do you have one? I'm like, bitch, I don't need a federal ID to say I'm indigenous. Look at me.
Exactly, bro. That's ridiculous, and it kind of goes back and ties into this whole thing in belief in the superstition of government authority. Like, oh no, I won't accept it until you have the proper documentation. You know what I'm saying? And with the current situation with the ICE raids, and I don't know if you caught some, my buddy Twisted told me to tell you what's up. He's in the live chat right now. And he's my, yeah, man, he's my dog, but he's been sending me a lot of these videos of these people that aren't even ICE agents or nothing, bro. It looks like they're bounty hunters, and apparently they get $1,000 per head. And so I thought about this when I started seeing these videos. It was pissing me off and it was angering me. But I thought about it like, how fucking ironic that if you are a black illegal immigrant, if you are a white looking illegal immigrant, you'll be left alone. Yeah. But if you look like a fucking Indian, that's the guys we're going to be arresting. If you're a brown ass Indian looking son of a bitch, that's who's getting racially profiled. The fucking irony of it all when you take his historical and all that shit into context. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. What are your thoughts on that?
It's complex. I get it. I get the ICE raids. Is it racial profiling? Oh yeah, 100%, 100%. And we've got it, here in LA, because I'm, in tune with the news. And like I said, like we do have a pretty good news channel, KTLA Channel News 5. They actually report the news, and there have been U.S. citizens getting arrested, because they got racially profiled, and then a day or two they get released. Things of that. It's been happening for sure. And there are also these bounty hunters. They're coming from all over the country. Again, I don't know where specifically, but they come here and they, start, geared up from their, G.I. Joe Amazon, freaking fatigues, whatever. And they walk around and pulling guns on people, not identifying themselves, covering their face mask, covering their faces with a face mask, and basically abducting people.
Yeah.
Now, so I get that point. Okay, I get why they're doing it, but at the same time, there's no due process, and they're racially profiling. People that are brown, or they're profiling. Somebody waiting on a bus stop, going to work, stuff of that nature. They're not going to Skid Row grabbing people. They're not grabbing the homeless. They're actually grabbing people that are going to work. Now, about the immigration, personally, I think it's messed up to a certain degree, but at the same time, I also get the fact that we have a high percentage of illegal immigrants, not just from Latin America, but from all over the world here in Los Angeles. A lot of people from the Middle East, from Africa, from Europe. Santa Monica and Venice is known for illegal Europeans. They all hide out there. I don't see them, raiding, Santa Monica pubs, because we do, and California does have like the highest illegal Canadian population in the country. But I don't see Canadians getting, racially profiled and abducted either. So I guess those are my 2 cents.
Well, I wanted to show you this. I don't know if you saw this. this clip. Let's play it real quick.
Not for nothing, but I want to know where all the cholos are at in Los Angeles. 18th Street, Florencia. Where's the leadership at? Because you guys are all about territory, and this is 18th Street, and this is Florencia. You guys tag everything up, claiming hood. And now that your hood's being invaded by the biggest gang there is, there ain't a peep out of you. It's everyone else who's not about the gang life that's out there protesting and speaking up. We're out there like fighting our turf, protecting our turf, protecting our people. And like, where you at? Bien calladitos, todos los chulitos. I'm like, dude, they're running amok all up in on your streets and in your city. And Pete, when the big gang guns come in, nothing but like quiet, and we're out here, the regular ones that have never been jumped in, out here calling things out, trying to organize people, trying to do the thing. So don't be trying to claim no block, no nothing if you're not showing up right now, trying to like.
So that was, I don't know her name, but it was Cynthia Gonzalez. She's the vice mayor of, how do you say that? Cudahy, California. Cudahy, California.
Yeah.
She was under FBI investigation after allegedly posting a video where she urged the 18th Street and Florencia 13 gangs to defend their territory from ICE agents conducting raids. So, and if, like we just heard her say right there, she's like, all you fucking gangbangers, you guys like to act all tough. You're all bad. You own this hood. And now that you have these quote unquote ICE dudes or even imposters, these bounty hunters come in, now y'all are quiet. You ain't so tough now. So she's calling them out, but apparently she's getting investigated for that nonsense. Where's the free speech? And the people applauding that for her being investigated by the FBI are a lot of them are the same ones that a few months ago were crying about free speech.
Yeah.
And my boy Twisted made a valid point too. He was like, a lot of these people that was crying about how the government is taking away their guns and infringing upon their Second Amendment, they ain't nowhere to be found now that the Fifth Amendment is being infringed upon. People not getting due process. Where are you at? Are you guys cried about the Second Amendment being violated? But I guess they only pick and choose what they want to be. And I had a show yesterday and I was talking about it's the lack of consistency with a lot of people, man. They'll say they're hardcore on this, and then when it's time to show the same passion, when the thing starts going to the other side of the ideological spectrum, they start quieting it down, or they start making excuses why they can no longer be consistent anymore. And it's fucking trash, man. People don't have balls anymore. I don't know what kind of values you would claim to say. I mean, if you cared so much about the Constitution and your amendments being violated, care about them all. You know what I'm saying?
I think it's BS, obviously, what's going on, but vice mayor? I think, I don't think she was inciting. I think it's actually like a funny call out,
Yeah.
But I don't even think gangs are a thing as much anymore in Los Angeles. Gangs in the 90s here were really big, and I'm not saying they don't exist, but they're still around. And I just think like a lot of these gangs, gangsters now have mortgages. They're older now. They have families to feed. You know what I'm saying? They probably have prior records, and they're like, you know what? Screw that. I got to worry about my kids.
I'm a retired cholo.
Yeah.
The hood life ain't for me anymore.
Yeah. Because honestly, I don't see much gang activity like you used to in the old days, but, yeah, gangs are still around Los Angeles, but I don't think they're more like low key now, almost underground. They're probably like smarter now.
Yeah. You got smart gangs.
Yeah, you got smart gangs now. And I'm pretty sure a lot of these guys are older now, and they got a family to feed.
They got key fobs to enter the hoods.
Yeah.
Get the fuck out of here, bro.
You know what I'm saying? It's like, but I think that's a funny, statement she made. I think it's
Yeah.
funny. I think it's more like satire than
It
anything.
is, but that's what annoys me, that she would even get investigated by the FBI for that, dude. What was wrong about it, bro? She was mostly joking around. She was just trying. I mean, her point is valid. I agree with your sentiment. It's not a big deal these days, but I'm just saying, like, her general sentiment, she was making a point. It was a good point. It was funny, and to get investigated by the FBI over that shit, the hell, man!
It's
I
just
thought we
probably
lived in the land of the free.
it's all these snowflakes that are in power now.
Yeah.
They see a Hispanic woman, a Mexican American lady. More than likely, she's probably a Mexican American from her area,
Yeah.
and they, basically making satire at the expense of Trump's regime. But no,
Dude,
I
straight
think
up.
it's funny. But
Yeah.
go ahead.
I wanted to show La Danza del Venado. This is the
Yeah.
deer dance.
The
This is
deer
a
dance.
famous tribal dance from the Yaqui. I love this dance, man. And I was trying to find the best video rendition of it. I like this one right here. It's
You're
pretty solid.
you're not really gonna. Oh,
What's that?
I was
Go
going to
ahead.
say you're really not going to find a lot of videos like that posted by tribal members, because I'm pretty sure that was taken in Mexico, but in the U.S. it's like showing ceremonial dances is kind of like frowned upon. It's like a no-no. In
Mm.
Mexico, they're a little bit more laid back about it. That's why you're not going to see that many videos of deer dancers, because of it's highly revered and respected. You know what I'm saying? But yeah,
isn't
no,
that funny, bro? Like this imaginary line on the ground like dictates what
Mhm. Yeah.
one group of indigenous folks does north of that imaginary line, and then what the one south of that imaginary line. To me, it's bananas, bro. It's
Yeah, but
crazy.
the thing is,
Yeah.
again, too, like I've noticed the differences between Mexico, and then the United States. It's like in Mexico, it's like no mames way, like quit being quit being freaking soft.
Yeah. Quit being a pussy. That's essentially what you're trying to say.
So yeah, so in Mexico, it's a little bit more different. But yeah, go
Yeah.
ahead, play it, sir.
Just play it. All right. So that was a very short clip of it.
Yeah.
And then they just,
that's undeniable.
it doesn't show you the whole thing. We see the movements
Yeah.
of the dancer, like kind of erratic. He's trying to simulate,
So
he's trying to
there's-
simulate a deer. Tell us a little bit about that dance, the deer dance.
Okay, so oh gosh, I can't remember the story, like the origins of the deer. I can't remember some of the stories, and it's mostly anecdotal. Okay, before the Yaqui, there was these little people, and I can't remember their name. I could just hear my grandfather smack me upside my head. And these little people were they inherited the earth, and I can't remember the name, but these little people. At that point, there was different levels of creation, and from there, animals came first, and I believe it was the turtle, and then the crow, then the coyote. I believe it was the coyote first, and then the deer. And each animal gave man different gifts. And when man came into being, like in Sonora, the Yaqui River and all that, and also a turtle, the sea turtle is very important. When all these beings came about, like these animal spirits came about, each of them gave a gift to man. They were preparing for man's coming. Like manifestation on earth. And once the first man came. Each animal gave the Yaqui things on how to survive, and also the little people helped them with like hunting, how to hunt, how to farm, how to harvest, how to create different things so they can, sustain themselves. And a deer, which is very sacred, the deer was revered because it would give its life to feed the Yaqui. And so it was also like honoring the deer for its gift of life, what I'm trying to say. And let me see what I remember. Because I could just hear my grandfather.
Yeah, the Yaqui were very in tune with nature.
Yes.
And so I saw an interview of a elder Yaqui who was talking about, like, you learn a lot about life. He was basically talking about when you live in the city, in the populated city, your brain gets, and I'm paraphrasing, he was like, your brain gets fucked with a bunch of mush, a lot of stupid shit. When you're outdoors, when you're in nature, when you are living in tune with the birds, the deer, just outdoors shit, you become with the spirit, is what he was trying to say. You know what I mean? And I thought that touched so much, because nowadays you see a lot of kids, man, they get caught up in their little Kindles, or little video games,
little Nintendo Switch.
Nintendo Switch. And what this elder was talking about, man, when you put all that shit away and you go outdoors and you commune with nature, with the animals, you can learn from them. You can learn from their spirit. And I was like, man, that is profound, man. And we're slowly losing that.
Well, the thing is, the Yaquis, yes, fierce fighters, warriors, even the women. There's a lot of historical context of women fighting. Fierce warriors all around. And one thing that people don't know about the Yaquis is that they were very spiritual. There's a lot of research, documentation of Yaqui philosophy and religious beliefs. Okay. The first Spaniards that came to Sonora was probably like 1500, 1520, 1530, something like that. And these were Jesuits, and there was a slow migration of religious beliefs and thoughts. And so the Yaqui religion now is a combination of Catholic and Native beliefs, Yaqui beliefs. And it's merged into one. But a lot of the Yaqui still retained a lot of the old belief systems. They were very into meditation and also dreams. For example, there's this author named Carlos Castaneda, who wrote about the Yaquis extensively. And there's like 12 to 15 books of it. So there's a lot of information about Yaqui religious beliefs and also philosophy and also sorcery. So those that are interested, knock yourselves out. There's so much information out there. And a lot of these people were, in some of the Yaqui customs, is like beliefs, is that you do a lot of dream work. And in your dreams is like when you're able to do things, manifest things in your sleep. And they also teach you it's also taught that once you're in a dream, you're able to manifest things or do things for yourself that will help you, like in the waking life. So meaning you basically do the hard work in your dreams, in your sleep. And it could be self-improvement, whatever it is, fear and anxiety, and or if you want to make things better for your life, you want to manifest more money, or you want to do this, you want to do that, you do it through dreams. And also sorcery. I'm not much into the sorcery stuff because I'm one of those, because it could be, good energy and bad energy. So I try to stay away from that stuff. Because again, I've meditated, I've done some of these practices, but there's some stuff out there that is not nice. I'm talking about because you're also talking about realm.
Talk about it, bro. If you feel comfortable, by all means.
Yeah,
I'd like to know.
it's just you do the concepts of dream work, meaning like in dreams you can talk to the dead, to your relatives or ancestors, and then within the dream, once you have the ability to dream and be aware and present in that state, in that first dream, you're able to transcend to a second dream, even though you're still asleep. Let's say, for example, dream one, you're asleep, you're dreaming, you're talking to an ancestor, or you're able to, I guess you could say, lucid dreaming. You're able to control your environment within your dream. So within that dream, which is very hard, you go into a second dream state within that first sleep,
God damn.
And then with that second dream state, you go to another dream state, a third one. There's like 7 levels.
Dude, that's like a dimension, right? Would you say?
Yeah. And this is where it gets kind of sketchy for me, is that you encounter non-biological entities, meaning spirits.
God damn.
They're not there to help you. They're not there to hurt you, but sometimes they can mess with you, and sometimes they will actually help you, but and I've encountered them, and it's kind of dicey. I have fear of them. And
when you were going through these states, are you doing peyote? Are you doing shrooms? Any of that stuff?
No.
It's just natural.
It's natural. You can do it naturally. People that do peyote or weed, it's just it alters your brain, and you're able to do it, I guess, quicker or sooner. And you need a medicine man or medicine woman. You need a sorcerer, curandera or curandero, to guide you. Because if you're trying to do this on your own, you're going to be
fucked.
Yeah, you are. And so when you dream and do this stuff, it's because you're trying to create an environment for yourself so you can be a better person, type of deal. And again, some people will do it for dark practices too, which is like they'll start contacting those non-biological entities, spirits, whatever they may be. Okay. And to me, they just look like a stick of energy, like a broomstick that was dark. That was it. They didn't have any shape or form. And then in Yaqui beliefs too is that we believe that everybody has a ball of everybody's energy, kind of like the force. If you want to talk about it, everybody has a living force, and that we have an aura, and this aura is like almost egg-shaped, oval looking and egg-shaped. And the sorcerers, the ones that are in tune, the ones that can dream upon dreams, like to the 7th level, when you're able to do that, they're able to astral travel and see the universe and get all kinds of information, and guidance, and to talking to ancestors, to talking to spirits, to talking to like stars. I mean, it's pretty intense stuff. And again, it's all documented, it's all written. And again, those that are interested, it's the books, the teachings of Don Juan in the art of dreaming. And the author is Carlos Castaneda. There's like 10, 15 books of it. And but also I encourage people to meet Yaqui sorcerers instead, curanderos or curanderas, but they have to be authentic. And where they are, there's some in Baja, and then definitely in Sonora, but I don't know much about the ones in Sonora. So, but
that's awesome, man.
It's it's a lot of mysticism and shamanism and beliefs of but it's something that I've dabbled into, but not much because I don't have the time.
So I found another Yaqui deer dance, and I was skimming it. It looked pretty good. So here's another Yaqui Indian, or the other one that I showed you was very, very brief. So here's another rendition of it. Damn, that shit's fire. I love that shit.
Yeah.
Love that shit. That sends goosebumps.
And
Anytime if you're listening to this and you've never been to a Native American powwow, I would highly recommend it. I mean, it's beautiful. A lot of these dances are things that have been done for who knows how long, time immemorial. I mean, there's no a lot of folks didn't have written history, so there really is no way of knowing how long something is. This is a video from 1898, and it's called the Buffalo Dance. From what I understand, this was an illegal dance. You were not supposed to perform this dance because it scared the shit out of white folks. And even though it's from 1898, let's enjoy it. Let's see. Love it, man. That's fire. They just keep looping it up. But that was the buffalo dance from the Sioux Indians, and they were outlawed. If you were caught performing the buffalo dance, you will get killed.
Yeah,
it's insane.
I think that's what happened with Wounded Knee. I think they were doing a dance, and the military got wind of it. I believe, I may be wrong, but I think that's what that's what happened. They were performing a ceremonial dance, and that's how it started. You know, the massacre of Wounded Knee. I believe, I may be wrong, but it's been a minute. But also to add, not just the Yaquis have their own philosophy and religion. There's multiple tribes. I mean, there's like I think 70, 80 recognized official languages in Mexico. Native indigenous tribe, languages.
Yeah.
And they also have their own belief system. And, the Spanish get a bad reputation. I mean, what they did wasn't really, good, what they did, in Mexico with the conquest and whatnot. But a lot of the Jesuit priests and the Franciscans documented languages and history to some extent. So the languages, really didn't die. So several of the indigenous language are written down, so people can learn them. The Yaqui language is written down. I forgot who did the work on that one, but like the reason Nahuatl has never disappeared was because it was written down. Zapotec, the same thing. So there's several languages that the Spanish priests, with the help of like converted, indigenous populations like scribes, wrote the languages down. They translated them from Spanish, from the original language to Spanish in the Spanish alphabet. So it's not a dead language, really. I mean, we do have dead languages in Mexico, but they're still alive though. And go ahead.
That's what's crazy. I don't know how you feel about it. But I feel there's so much history that has been either purposely hidden from us or destroyed from us. I mean, when you look at even the Mexica, that's something I've studied, the whole alleged conquest of Mexico by the Spaniards, gone in depth. I had Daniele Bolelli on my show a few years back. He's a world recognized historian, and it was cool, man. I think I surprised him with how much knowledge I had in the subject. But one of the things that happened when the Spanish went into Mexico City is that one of the first things they did was burn Aztec libraries, and only a handful of codices survived.
Yeah.
And the codices that survived, a lot of them were reiterations of codices that had already been burnt. It was like the final attempt. Oh shit, what do you remember? Boom, let's make a codice real quick. So they're not even a lot of these remaining codices aren't even 100% authentic or original from the old Aztec days. They were just quickly transcribed. You see what I'm saying? By some of the Spanish priests. So when you take all that into consideration, how much of Nahua history has been lost forever that we'll never even know? You know what I'm saying?
I think this is years ago. Gosh, this is years ago. I read this article that the reason the Spanish burned, these libraries, is that during that era, during that time, the Mexica had the libraries also contained genealogy records, property ownership, all kinds of information. Like the noble families that own property, and I guess Cortés figured out, well, if I burn this shit, because I guess the Spanish crown wanted to make the Aztec Empire taxpayers. And so supposedly when Cortés was like, screw this crap, let's just burn all this shit and just make up our own story when we get back to Spain. And I guess I guess the king at the time, the Spanish king, had loyal soldiers with Cortés that were, more loyal to the crown. And I guess a couple of priests that were with Cortés at the time testified against Cortés. And they told him, like, hey, this dude flat out committed genocide and killed all these families. And so I believe Cortés was court-martialed for a bit, because when I guess, the priest explained to the king, like, that Tenochtitlan was just this beautiful city, and then Cortés just decimated it, and so committed all these atrocities. And so there was a while where I believe Cortés was on trial, or he was about to be in trial.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was one of the researchers said that's why Cortés burned all that, all the libraries, just to erase ownership of the noblemen. And
I call it it's basically the American version of the burning of the Library of Alexandria. You know what I'm saying? To me, what fascinates me of the Mexica, and sometimes people go overboard and glorifying the Mexica and like, oh, I'm Mexica, motherfucker. If you trace your genetics, you're probably some other indigenous tribe. Not everyone of Mexican is descent is Aztec or whatever. But it is a fascinating culture when you realize that the Aztecs were a nomadic tribe from Aztlan, from perhaps the Four Corners area. They were nomads, and allegedly, based on their folklore, they were their prophecy was to keep heading south until they saw this vision of an eagle perched on a cactus eating a snake. And that's what the Mexican flag has. That it's from their mythology.
Prophecy.
I remember, prophecy. They were going until they prophecy was fulfilled. Now, I remember reading a book when I was younger, and it was fascinating to me. I don't know if you found any research to maybe add or to what I'm about to say, but I remember reading this book that said that the Aztec mythology, they were part of the Rattlesnake Clan in the Four Corners area, right there with the Hopi Indians and the Navajo and everything. And to this day, in the Four Corners area, there's some glyphs on a cave. And some of the Hopi elders say that's when it talks about the story of one of the Rattlesnake clans leaving the area and heading south. And according to this legend, the Mexica, when they were nomads, they split up. Some said the prophecy said head south. Half of the clan said the prophecy says head east.
Okay.
Obviously, we now know what happened to the nomads that headed south. They became the mighty Aztecs later on. But according to this book, anyways, they have found linguistic evidence that half of that clan, the Mexicas, ended up in Florida. They just never became. They never became what the Aztecs became, in southern Mexico. But they probably blended in with the other cultures and everything, but they made it as far as Florida, which is freaking insane, man. All these little details, man, these are the things. This is American history, but we don't get taught that shit. We get taught about pilgrims, that America history only began when some dudes got pissed off of what was going on in Europe.
No.
They were immigrants. illegal immigrants and landed on Plymouth Rock, and that was the birthplace of America. But the reality of the situation is Native American history is vast, man. Have you found anything regarding that, or even there's some structures in Montana. It's called the Sage Wall that were only recently found. Some people bought this property in Montana, and it's clearly a man-made wall. The way the stones are cut and put together, and no one knows what the fuck to make out of it. But this is because we don't know shit about Native American history, man. We don't get taught any of this. It's kind of put to the back. And
Right.
So I think a lot of times people have this warped image that it was just a bunch of savages killing each other and that's it.
Well,
It's stupid, ignorant thinking, but I think that's what a lot of people think, you know?
and the thing is, even previous to the Aztec Empire, you had the Toltecas and the Olmecas in Mexico, you know, Teotihuacan, like, you know, ancient, you know, and again, I think it was, don't quote me on it, I can't remember, but I think it was like, what, 1,500 years old? Some of those temple structures, like, but it predates the Aztecs by a lot. I don't know, like, you know, the timeline. I just can't remember the top of my head.
Yeah, the Olmeca.
Yeah, the Olmeca, and they left. You know, they left temples. They left all kinds of stuff. You know, statues, and their language wasn't preserved though. Like, I don't think nobody knows, you know, what they spoke or anything like that. And the same with the Toltecas. You know, the Toltec Empire. Nobody knows what what their language was or linguistic roots, but other than their temples are still around. You know. And I just can't remember if you can look it up, brother. Like how long, you know.
Yeah.
And also, I believe some of the ancestors of the Toltecs kept some of their philosophy, but it was all through word of mouth. You know, like there's a author, there's a doctor. I read his book years ago. It was The Four Agreements, and he mentioned, I believe his name was Don Miguel Ruiz, and he was taught Toltec, you know, philosophy through his mother and grandmother. And what I remember is like it was the Four Agreements. One was be impeccable with your word, like speak with integrity, avoid gossip, self-criticism, and whatnot. Your word is a creative force to use it to speak the truth, you know, and I believe that what I remember is that it's important to choose your words wisely. You know, like don't have self-doubt, like, oh God, I'm a dumbass, and then you keep believing it yourself. Or if you say something to your child, like quit being a dumbass, your words may cause your child to be thinking they're a dumbass, and then the second agreement, what I remember is, the second agreement was don't take anything personally. What others say or the projection of their own reality, meaning, I cursed you out, brother. You and I got it. I did something bad and I'm taking it on you. And you're like, well, you know what? He's having a bad day. Don't take it personal. Just don't hold on to it. Don't hold on to that grudge. And then the third one was don't make assumptions. Like assumptions lead to misunderstandings, and ask a question to seek clarity and avoid filling in blanks and false beliefs. It sounds kind of vague, but the more you think about it, it kind of like, releases stress, meaning, don't assume that the person hates you or dislikes you, or don't assume that the person loves you. You know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
And then the last one is always do your best. The fourth agreement was always do your best, whatever it is. For example, your podcast, do the best with your podcast. Do your best as a father or as a parent, as a co-worker, etc. So
pipe layer.
and that's what I remember. Toltec wisdom. So
Yeah.
there's a lot of information out there that people still can have access to,
Yeah.
like Mesoamerican culture, philosophy, religion, I mean, it's out there. It's amazing.
You know, the third one that you pointed about don't take shit personally,
Yeah.
that's something you told me years ago. I want to say 10 years ago, 12 years ago, whenever long ago it was. I think you and I were speaking over the phone, and when you told me that, it changed my way of looking at a lot of shit, and I never told you. I've never given you thanks for that. And then right now that you mentioned it, it reminded me you're the one that taught me that. My personality type is of a type that I can easily get emotional or angry or whatever, lash out
Yeah.
if a motherfucker starts acting up. That's how I've always been. But I remember, I don't know when you told me that. We were speaking over the phone. You brought that up, and you said, don't hold, if someone's a jerk to you, don't hold it against them. You don't know what they have gone through. Maybe they had a death in the family and they're acting like jerks. They're lashing out because they're hurt. Maybe they just got fired. Maybe they had a job for all these years and they just lost their fucking job. And so it's not fair to judge someone entirely on that moment. Maybe they're going through a bad spell. And so this is my own variation of it, but that's essentially what you taught me. And when you told me that, I had to rethink a lot. I'm like, damn, you're right. I don't know what other motherfuckers doing. My mom died, as you know, a year and a half ago. And it that plane ride, when I left Florida, I'm by myself and I'm fucking hurt. I don't want to look at anyone. I was probably an asshole to people because I don't want to look at anyone. And that's when that shit, I remember what you said it, and it rang even harder later on because I'm like, damn, you're right. You don't know what people are going through at that moment in time, So try not to judge someone right in that moment is something that I have learned, and it's because of you.
Oh, thank you, brother. Yeah, I try to follow it. Yeah. Well, we forget sometimes. We need to be reminded, again, like be impeccable with your word, be honest, say the truth, even though sometimes people don't want to hear it, and it's just, it's very simple, very, very basic, but it's very fundamental. It's essential, and I think people, as we get older, it may be like life factors, and like especially now, how everything in this country is going. It's not a good time right now, honestly. We're being lied to by media, social media, the news, and everything else in between. And it's just sometimes we forget, like why we're here, and I think sometimes it's good that we remember our roots, where we come from, where we are. Let's go back to where we came from, and and learn from our ancestors. Listen to their guidance and their advice. And I think that's what we're lacking these days too. We're not listening. History's repeating itself. Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's cool, man. And I'm glad you touched on some of that philosophy, because I'm big on that. I love that. And a lot of times the only philosophy we ever get taught is like Western, quote unquote, Western philosophy.
Yeah.
Philosophy with European roots. So to learn about what Native American philosophy is about, I enjoy that shit, man. Do you, off the top of your head, do you remember any other great philosophical points that you have learned. That one where you gave the points, man, that has always resonated with me, and you're the one that taught me that shit. But if you've got any other ones that may come to mind, by all
Well,
means, share it.
well, like I'll share this insight for sure. When I was in my second dream, I saw the cosmos. It was like the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. And again, no peyote, no weed, no alcohol. This is straight meditation and sleep. And I kind of felt that I was in this heavenly flow. Like I saw the cosmos, colors I can't describe to you. And I kind of got a glimpse of like our origins, how we started as energy. Like we came from no existence into existence, meaning I saw particles of light, and then I saw minerals and rocks, and I know it sounds weird. and then I saw, biological matter, like cells, almost kind of like, I was going through this timeline, onto our present being, and it was just like so empowering, so emotional. Like I love being at that moment in time. It's just I saw the past, present, and future. Like of creation, and that we're how we're we are beings of light. We come from the stars, meaning that we probably were created in the Big Bang. And I know that energy is constant. It doesn't die. It keeps going. That's one thing I've learned about, when I do the meditations and, try to do that dream within the dream. And again, I've only gone to the third dream, which is very hard to do. And that's when I saw the cosmos, and it's very enlightening. I highly recommend, reading Carlos Castaneda's books. And the actual guy, Don Juan, he's still alive. He's like in his 90s. He lives in Baja, dude. I think in Tecate, around that area. And I believe he's on YouTube too. So if I find a clip on him, I'll send it to you so you can see it. But I'm really big on meditation and breathing. I notice when I catch myself, because those books do teach you how to breathe. They explain it to you, like inhale, exhale. I know it sounds stupid, you're like, wow, everybody can breathe. But when you're able to release your stress through your breath, and again, this could probably be a mishmash of Western, Eastern, and also Mesoamerican, or it could be one of those things that, people just developed on their own as time goes by. But I really recommend that if you want to, for people that want to learn more about Native American philosophy and traditions and whatnot, I recommend Carlos Castaneda's books. Again, there's like 10, 15 books of them. There's a lot. The author passed away some years ago, and but they're available, and that's what's awesome. And the Four Agreements too. I mean, there's more books, and also I forgot, since you love the Aztecs, there's poetry books written by Aztecs that somehow survived, time, and they have a lot of knowledge in there. Poetry, Aztec poetry, man. It's just look it up on Amazon. That's what I can remember top of my head right now.
Yeah, I love that shit. I mean, that little glyph you see on the bottom left. One of my friends that lives in LA, he's a tattoo artist. He designed that for me.
Okay.
And so I ended up getting it on my hand. Check it out.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And it's all based on Mesoamerican art. I fucking love that art, man. Just the line, the symmetry. I think it's beautiful. And it's completely different than anything you'll see out, anywhere else in the world, man. It's unique. It has its own style. And that's the fascinating thing about even a lot of Mesoamerican cultures. It's very similar, and I say this just so people that don't fully understand, to try to relate it somehow. A lot of the theology was heavily influenced by the Sumerians. and then later the Egyptians. The Egyptians later influenced the Greeks, and then the Greeks later influenced the Romans. Uh, Roman and Greek mythology, I mean, the gods are essentially the same. They're just given different names, but it's essentially the same pantheon. And in Mesoamerica, you see a lot of the similar things. You have Quetzalcoatl, who is the feathered serpent god. That's what his name was in Mexica or Aztec lore. And for the Mayans, it was Kukulkan, the same exact god, Kukulkan. And so to me, that's fascinating how the belief systems, what is the origin? I like to think, what is the origin? What was it that inspired the feathered serpent god to be the badass god in Mesoamerica? You know what I mean? Do you have any
Yeah,
thoughts on that?
I don't know. I mean, honestly, I'm talking we're talking possibly prehistory here. The belief of the Quetzalcoatl, uh, the serpent god. Because what I know is that what I remember reading is that when the serpent shits its old skin, it's like it's renewal, rebirth, and I believe that's how it came about. I believe. I mean, again, I haven't I haven't gone through my own materials in years and years since I started talking to you. I was like, oh my goodness.
Yeah.
But I believe that's how it started. But listen to this. The other day, a couple of weeks ago, my son and I were driving, and we saw two crows eating a snake from both ends. I have no idea what that means.
Yeah.
It was two
Or
crows just picking at a simultaneously, at both ends eating a snake, dude. Like,
well, could it also be too that maybe that's what inspired the origins of that? A similar sighting of that. I'm like, oh man, that's cool as fuck. Let's develop a story out of that.
I'm telling you, my son and I were like, what the hell did we just see? We were laughing too. Like, I should have
Yeah.
stopped and, taken a picture, but, we were driving, but it happened so fast. We're like,
Yeah.
we're driving like, oh, did you see that? Yeah, it was crazy.
Yeah, man, I'm fascinated with nature. I'm always talking about like the cool videos that I see that people catch of animals just in nature doing shit. There was a video, maybe I could pull it up in a little bit, but out here in Florida, a black bear is swimming in a Florida lake, bro, in the fucking Everglades, and these people start recording it. They think it from their distance. They think it's a hog. Like, oh, this hog's gonna get fucked up by
Right.
some alligators. So they're recording. The bear swimming. This alligator comes from behind. He's like 7 foot, 8-footer, not too big, but big enough to hurt you.
Yeah.
And he comes up behind him. The bear turns around, bam, power slaps the fucker in the nose. Then the alligator backs out like, oh shit. And then he starts swimming. There's another alligator in front of him, same size as that dude, comes up to him. Bear gets up, bam, smacks him right in the fucking nose. What that tells me is that that's a Florida black bear. He's
Right.
used to swimming in the lakes. He's used to dealing with alligators.
Wow.
And that's how he deals with them. He fucking smacks him right in the fucking nose and goes about his way. And imagine being a indigenous person, a few centuries ago and witnessing that. Like, would you come up with some kind of a deity story off of that vision or sighting?
There's a lot. I believe there's a lot of truth to that. Again, with you always hear these like stories about giants living in the Southwest, giants living in Mexico, and I just think it's just probably some tribesmen, probably a isolated group of tribes people were probably like 6 foot or 6'2", 6'3", and people thought these guys are giants, Nephilim or some type of deal. I don't believe there was ever like anything like that, mythological like that, like red-haired giants, roaming around cannibalizing people. It might be probably been some prototype, like indigenous group that came, ancient group that came in that was, unidentified tribe, and they all happened to be tall and somehow, died in obscurity. They were probably killed off or intermarried, bred out, etc. You know, uh, Also like mythical beasts. I just think people probably embellished, or they were, or people that observe something in nature and then doing ritualistic practices, probably on peyote or weed or whatever, probably started hallucinating. I think a lot of the petroglyphs that we see are probably hallucinations, from, people having religious ceremonies and writing their accounts in, through petroglyphs. Kind of like that dream I told you, how I had that dream within that dream, about the cosmos. I probably would do a spiral to represent the galaxy or something like that of what I saw.
Yeah.
But I really don't buy into oh, these mythological beasts, at one point existed. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, I'm with you, man. I'm of the same mindset. Yeah, and I wanted to show you the video real quick of that bear and alligator, because, and I only brought this up, could it be with some of these myths, quote unquote, they come about out of witnessing something crazy in nature?
I think so.
And then you try to explain it, like, God damn, that must mean this. You know what I'm saying?
I think so.
Yeah, imagine, like I said, just being a couple centuries back and you're watching this shit. This is fucking banana. This is the only video you'll see of this right here, where a black bear smacks a fucking gator. But I'm sure it's happened a bunch of times. The way the bear reacts to this alligator, it sounds like it's not. It looks like it's not his first rodeo fucking with alligators. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah. Or you know what? Also supernatural experiences, brother. Believe me, I've had plenty of those too, and and especially doing my meditative things. Oh yeah, I believe so, that people also through petroglyphs and paintings and all that probably also documented supernatural experiences. But anyways, let's see this clip. I want to see that bear.
Just watch it. All right.
Oh man, alligator coming to say hi.
Boom! You see that? He smacked that fucker in the face.
Wow.
And then look at. So then
we got that on video.
Look at the alligator.
Go for round two.
He stops. He doesn't want to. Yeah, here's the other one. Look, the bear goes right to him. He beelines it right to him. Fucks him right in the face. Look at that. Both alligators like, what the fuck?
Oh man.
So I that's one of those videos you won't see anywhere else. That's like once in a lifetime type of catches, where you try YouTubing at black bear versus alligator. You ain't gonna see it.
Well, you know what? That reminds me now, not to cut you off. When I was a kid, I remember watching TV as a kid, like vegging out. And there was a show from the 60s, I believe, and it was called Big Ben. And it was basically this kid and a big black bear. And I believe they were in Florida. And the dad was a park ranger and somewhere in some swampland. And you see this little kid jumping in lakes and rivers, with gators, but Big Ben would scare them away. Dude, that show is old, dude.
There's a lot of shit out here. So I wanted to show you this map. So I did a show with these guys. They're OGs in the podcasting game. They're called Grime America. It was show 250 if anyone's interested. But towards the end of the show, they pulled this. Can you see that right there?
What are we looking at?
It's okay. So we're looking at a map. Okay, I just want to make sure you can see it.
I can see it.
And if you look at this map, it shows you how a lot of this shit is shallow. You see around the landmass areas?
Yes.
Look at this. And it changed my way on looking a lot of shit right here. Let's see. Okay. Oh, man, it looks kind of fucked up.
Oh, yeah. During the Ice Age, the oceans were like, what? Some places like 200 feet, you know,
Yeah,
through
look at
those
this.
seawater.
Look how shallow these coastlines are.
Yeah.
So a lot of these islands where you see people today, you know, like especially in the Polynesian islands, you know,
Yes.
Micronesia and whatnot.
Uh-huh.
When you look at the land masses, look how shallow that shit is.
Yeah.
So
No.
this kind of changes for me when they showed me, when these Grime America homies showed me this map. I'm like, it fucking changed my way of thinking, because what do we get told where indigenous folks came to the Americas all the time? It's through the Bering fucking Strait.
Through the
But
Bering
you start
Strait.
you start looking at, look how shallow this shit is. Look how shallow this shit is. There's a lot of places where they could have just fucking walked across. Look at
No,
this shit.
they've in Peru, they've found Peru. No, there's a Polynesian potato, and they broke down the DNA analysis, and it comes straight from Peru, and it has a specific name, and which I can't remember, that the Polynesians use, you know, that word name for that
Yeah.
potato, and it's a Quechua word, you know,
Yeah.
Peruvian word. And so there was contact to some extent. Like, I don't believe that Native Americans walked through the Bering Strait. I think it was done through canoes and whatever type of raft they had at that time. And again, it's probably all that, you know, like migration, you know, migration trail and all that from Bering Strait down. I don't think they were able to walk through that ice sheet and then deal with like these freaking giant animals, like, you know,
The
saber-toothed tiger.
short-faced bear or the saber-toothed tiger, bro.
Yeah, freaking you have rhinos, dude. Like, you know,
Yeah. They would have
those things are
fucked you up.
huge.
That's why if you look at that map right there,
And lyre wolf, never mind those guys.
Yeah.
Those things are huge.
have you seen the short-faced bear?
Yeah.
Fucking like 15 feet tall, standing on its hind legs.
And
What the fuck
so-
you gonna do with something like that?
and so I think the migration was done. And I read an article from this one gal years ago, like 15, 20 years ago. And she was on PBS, like a documentary, you know, and and also read her article too. And she had mentioned that she believes that migration was done through rafts, canoes, kayak, whatever it is, again. And I think we do not give the ancestors enough credit. I'm pretty sure they were as advanced as they could possibly be at that time to make those journeys, because there was no way. There was no freaking way they're going to walk through those ice sheets, and plus to cover that much ground all the way to South America, Argentina, and then they're finding all these like ancient sites that predate supposedly the Bering Strait crossing in like 10,000 years. Even in San Diego, they found mammoth bones that have been scraped and carved with flint and rearranged a certain way, dating 125,000 years, which is crazy. New Mexico, they found in White Sands, New Mexico, they found male and female footprints, and those of children in the sediment, 27,000 years, you know. And so I think the migration has been happening way longer than anybody thought, you know.
I agree. And how much of it has been altered and changed, you know, for whatever the reason may be. There's a thing, have you heard, you know, they're talking about the old world stuff. Apparently there's buildings sometimes in towns with only a population of a couple thousand people, and there's buildings there that would have taken a couple thousand people to build. So you're telling me the entire little town just worked on this endeavor the entire time? And so some people think that a lot of history has been missing or corrupt. You know what's crazy? You know,
erased, fabricated.
Yeah, it's crazy. I don't put it past, man, because Pops has done some you know, trying to chase down the genealogical record, see how far he could go, whatever. And obviously in Utah you can go to the you know, the downtown Mormon church headquarters and look at Catholic baptism records there and whatnot. And he would always get stumped around the 1850s and shit. it seems like around the 1850s, 1860s, something happened because I started doing more research, and a lot of people have a hard time. There's a few people that can go further and further and further, but a lot of people seem to get stuck right there. Like something fucking happened there, and we'll probably never really know what happened at that time, time period. And when you look at just the world in general, the U.S. stole Mexican land in the 1840s. Just 20 years prior to the Civil War of the 1860s.
Yeah.
That was a major event that happened. And so you're just left to wonder what exactly are we missing out on? What has been purposely hidden from us? And so on and so forth. I mentioned the Sage Wall earlier. And
Yeah.
if you look at this is in Montana, bro. And they don't know what the fuck this is about. Look at this. You see that guy right there?
Yeah.
That is not a natural wall.
They need to send like geologists to make sure, because there have been anomalies like that. I mean,
Look at this shit, man. Look at this.
So, again, I'm not a geologist or anything like that, but like, I mean, it does look like a wall. I mean,
Come on.
I mean, I'm not going to say, oh, it's not a wall, but I'm more of a, again,
look at this.
I'm more of a devil's advocate.
Aerial view. But look at this aerial view.
Yeah.
It's clearly a fucking fence or a wall, bro.
I mean, I like to see like comparisons of like natural formations like that too. I mean, if they exist, they exist. If they don't, they don't. But like, again, I'm always on the side of caution. Like,
yeah,
give me some
it's
evidence.
Good to be a skeptic.
Yeah, but then again,
I get it. But
then again, I'm telling you about talking. Then again, I'm telling you about talking about freaking entities.
It's all good. No, it's fine. It's always good to be have a skeptical mind. That's what I try to do with my little show. I question everything. I mean, yesterday we did a show yesterday. It was a pretty fire show, and the title of the show was "Everything is Fake and Gay." And we were just it was great, man. We were rolling, man. We were on fire. But I don't know what it is, man. I feel like it's almost like the movie The Matrix. Remember the movie The Matrix, where he's given the choice: do you want the red pill and you'll see reality for what it is? Or do you want the blue pill? You'll forget everything. You'll go back to your normal little life and everything's all good. And Neo's like, no, fuck that. Give me the red pill. And I feel at this moment in time, like, man, I'm in the Matrix. I see the bullshit for what it is. They show the Trump assassination on TV. The vast majority of people took it seriously. They almost killed President Trump, blah, blah, blah. And as soon as I see it, I'm like, that shit is fake and gay. And I just feel like I'm just zoning. Maybe I'm wrong. I'm fully aware that maybe I'm the one that's wrong. I'm just fucking batshit crazy, and I'm thinking everything is fake and gay. But that's where I'm at these days. And it's just the thing is with the flow of information and everything, censorship, suppression, shit getting erased. I don't know what to make of it all. Did you ever read George Orwell's 1984?
Years ago, man. Years ago.
I feel like we're in 1984 right now. I feel Orwell got everything right except the decade. It didn't take place in 1984. It took place in COVID-19 84. With the surveillance state and censorship and the double speak. Like what's one of the things they say? War is peace. And right now, as they bomb Iran, they say strength is peace or something like that. Like
strength through like what is it? Strength through peace through strength. I'm like, Jesus.
I'm like, dude, it's Orwellian, man. It's insane. And I don't want to take too much more of your time, man.
What pisses me off too? No, I'm going to add in my rant here now.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
What pisses me off? Putin, Trump. And what's that other one? Netanyahu, whatever, Nesferatu. In 20 years, they're going to be dead. they're making these, life-changing, world-changing decisions, and it's like, you guys are going to be dead, you know. And I'm in my 50s. I have kids in high school, and it's like, what kind of future are you going to leave, for them? It's like, I'm in my 50s and I have freaking, these boomers that give don't care 2 cents about, the future of this world. I just don't think about America only. I think of, everything, like I think of, the world in general. Like, believe me, I want peace worldwide. There's
Yeah.
enough money, food, resources for everybody in this world. And why do just a handful of people get to decide how the world tilts? It's absurd. It's just,
I agree.
it's absurd. I want, if I could give people whatever they needed, I would. But it's absurd. It's insane.
I suppose when I look at what would I refer, like, I think I talked to my boy Twisted. I was talking to him about you and I, and because he was like, man, your brother is on point. He knows his shit. You made him out to be like a normie, quote unquote. He knows a lot of shit. And Twisted right there, he's in the live chat right there. But I was telling him that even over 10 years ago, 15 years ago, we were talking. That's when I was a full-on Democrat, full-on lefty.
Yeah.
Everything I saw on MSNBC, I took as gospel. And I remember talking to you a couple times, and I kind of left the conversation a little irritated with you. I'm like, man, my brother's brown as hell, and he's turned into a Republican. He's a conservative, and he used to piss me off. I'm like, I need to get to him. I
remember.
He needs to be vote blue no matter who. And now, all these years later, I invite you onto my little show, and you're dropping truth bombs, and I'm like, and my homies are saying, damn, your brother is on point. Fuck the left, fuck the right. There's no good guys. They all lie. It's all the same fucking story we get told over and over. And so all these years later, I've come around. I'm like, damn, you were right all this whole time. And it's wild. And I think these days, I think of myself, I love the idea. So I love the idea of anarchism. Fuck the government, make it go away. I love it. But if I'm being honest, I don't think it's realistic. I don't. I think we're too far fucking gone. The government has exerted its power, and it continues to tighten its grip over us through these new technologies, the surveillance state. I remember a few years ago, it was a conspiracy theory to talk about the social credit system.
Yeah.
Now it's now it's being openly talked about. Yeah, we're gonna go through a social credit score, and you're gonna enjoy it. Like, god damn, it's just getting worse. So I love the idea of anarchism. I just don't think it's realistic, if I'm being, perfectly honest.
I mean, it's just, we've seen so much in this country the last, I want to say 200 and some years. Okay. We've had all types of different, governments, but, with different labels on them. What I'm trying to say is, we have Trumpism, then we had Bidenism, and then, we had Trumpism for the first time, and then Obama, hope and change, and wow, nothing really changed. And then
it's just a constant pendulum, right?
Yeah,
Left
and then we had
to right,
W,
left to right,
and con the whole world to go, go after terrorism in Afghanistan. But wait, we're gonna go make some money, war profiteer in Iraq real quick.
Yeah, we're gonna give who was it, Dick Cheney, Halliburton, a $100 million contract for this manufactured affair. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Oh man.
And then now with this, possibly in the precipice of World War III with, this and that. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Why?
Yeah.
Where these alleged,
and like you said,
weapons.
in 20 years max, these guys are going to be long gone.
Yeah, and the
And they're
thing is,
fucking up our kids' world right now.
yeah, they're gonna be gone. So what? So I just don't get it. Why do we
Yeah.
have to follow these few individuals? Basically dictating how the world, should live. You know,
Yeah.
we just, and again, I think about the whole picture. What happened to my ancestors? Again, it was so horrible and tragic. Like my grandparents never talked about it. About our
Yeah.
history. And it was only until later, until my grandfather was maybe in his 70s, he started opening up with me because I spent a lot of time with him.
Yeah.
All of my other cousins, again, my uncles, married other, married women that were, not into like, Yaqui or the religion, nothing like that. But since again, I spend more time with my grandparents than most of my cousins, I was able to learn a lot. And it wasn't again until their like 70s, 80s, they opened up and they started, giving me the information and breakdown of, what happened and how it happened and why we wound up in Baja. And again, that's my grandfather's story. That's my grandfather's father's story. Now, my grandfather's mother's story, my great grandmother, it's a whole different ballgame. She was a California, somehow married a Yaqui Indian. That's the beauty of how sometimes history and migration start. But my grandmother, great grandmother, was a California, and so that's a whole different story. So what I'm trying to say is like I have empathy for what's happening. The people in Gaza. It's like, come on, you have basically these European colonists committing genocide.
Yeah. And getting away with it.
That story kind of sounds familiar to me.
Yeah. Yeah. I've been
like,
saying that for a while, bro. It's what happened to our indigenous ancestors here in this continent, where our ancestors
no
were
difference.
viewed as the savages. We needed to be colonized because we didn't have no history. We didn't have a culture. We were nothing but fucking parasites, and we deserve to. Our peoples deserve to be put in these fucked up reservations and slaughtered and killed off until we pacified to the government, to the fucking state. And now the same shit is happening in fucking Gaza.
On our
people
tax,
don't fucking learn.
On our dime.
And exactly, you and my tax dollars are going to fund this shit.
And this is wild. Yet in that country, they get to have free healthcare, free school, okay, free university, free healthcare, and oh, by the way, free housing once we get it, we kick out, the natives. Oh, Jesus Christ.
I've seen videos of some of these white Ashkenazis just casually moving into a Palestinian's home. Like, this is my fucking house now. And they're from New York. They have a New York accent. White people from New York going to Israel and
possibly committing war crimes.
Yeah. And laughing about it, smiling about it.
And coming back here like, oh, okay. I'm telling you, it's hideous.
Same shit getting repeated, man. The same shit that happened to our ancestors is being repeated in 2025. I guess that's what fucking irritates me the most. Is like, do people not learn from history? Do people not learn from the past to try to be better representations of what their forefathers were? And no, the answer is no. And I think, generally speaking, the public, even Jews, there's a lot of Jews that are like, no, fuck what Israel's doing. Yeah. The government, the regime of Israel is wrong. Netanyahu is Satan Yahoo. We don't approve of it. And yet the media is pushing it like this is good. This is okay. It's not. The Palestinians are savages anyways. It's all right. We're going to make Gaza into a gold star resort is what Trump is saying. Same shit is happening in 2025.
And they have the gall to call college kids, spoiled brats, this and that, because they're protesting. Yeah, they see the bullshit, man. It's hideous. It's just, I have no other word other than it's just hideous. It's disgusting. And again, it's in our dime, and people don't learn from the history. It's like, and you always hear the old adage, "Oh, well, there's always a conqueror, and conquered, and this and that." Well, why should it be that way? Majority of the world, I'm going to say 90-some% of the world's population wakes up every day, and the first thing they care about is like how their kids doing, pay the bills, go to work, and hopefully come back home to a house. I mean, I'm pretty sure that's 90% of the world's population, dude. And it's just insane,
Yeah.
It is crazy.
Absolutely.
And
My brother Ezra. Oh, I'm sorry. Did you have something else?
no, we're good.
Yeah, no, that was killer. We spoke some Yaqui. We spoke, and I wanted to. I made it a point that I wanted to relate it to people in the truth community, quote unquote, people that don't believe in government narratives, to try to relate it to what indigenous folk have gone through, and what government overreach has done to indigenous communities throughout the world, not just in the Americas, throughout the entire planet.
Yeah.
It's this government overreach each and every damn time. And we just lastly gave this example of what's going on in Gaza. These people are getting fucked over, and the media doesn't seem to give a shit.
No.
And it's happening right before our eyes, man. Every goddamn day you hear so many X amount of Palestinians killed, massacred, and no one's held accountable.
And there's mostly women and children.
Yeah, the vast majority. The vast majority of it.
People that had been there for time immemorial.
And that's what happened, 100 years ago. A lot of people don't realize that in the 1920s, there were bounties on Native American heads. If you killed a native, an indigenous person, you cut off their head, you decapitated them, brought them into some government office, they would pay you $25 a head.
Here in California, man, they had a genocide program. Once it became the United States, once the Mexicans were out and became the United States, the U.S. California government had a policy of extinction, of scalps for California natives, Chumash, whatever. So you had all these and then you had the gold rush. So you had all these miners going to people's properties or territory and killing them off. And what's crazy, listen to this one. This is crazy. So a lot of these people that killed off, the natives, from Northern Cal, Central Cal, it happened throughout the whole state. And they killed Mexicans too because, what's the difference? They look alike. So let's scalp them.
Yeah.
So a lot of these families, a lot of these, wealthy California, ranches or landowners, well, they got those ranches through genocide. They won't talk about it. They won't say shit about it. But yeah, they're literally, their great grandparents got those got that land, got that ranch through genocide. Yeah. And what's crazy, some of these, now became liberals, but they won't talk about that dark history.
Yeah. We'll just conveniently leave that part out, forget about it like nothing ever happened. And as you were describing it, what I was thinking about, it's kind of what we were talking about at the very beginning of the show, where there were bounties for Native American heads, $25 a head and whatever. In a similar vein, this is the freaky part. What are these bounty hunters doing right now? Any motherfucker that looks Indian, that looks like my brother Ezra, they're gonna try to kidnap and abduct you to collect $1,000 bounty. Same shit is just getting repeated, man.
Yep.
But a lot of people don't want to look at it that way. That starts to trigger a lot of motherfuckers. But that's the reality of the situation, and it's just history always repeating itself. It's crazy. We get taught all this shit over and over, and somehow it always manages to repeat itself.
Yeah, and this is what's crazy. Again, what's stupid? It's like the people doing it. It's like literally they're from the other side of the world. I'm American. when I look at somebody that's says that to me, it's like, well, my family's been here since the revolution. I'm like, hey, you're still a colonizer, fool.
Yeah, bro.
It's like, or like,
See that in Florida. I see Florida. They have on their little, on the back of their windows, they're like, native Floridian. I'm like, bitch, you don't look native at all,
it's like,
motherfucker.
dude, you're from the other side.
You
of the
look like
world.
you just came from Alabama 5 years ago. The fuck
Yeah.
are you talking about native? You ain't no fucking native.
And then, like, throughout my lifetime, I've met, here in California, you have people from all over the world. And you have people from all over the world, and they're like, where are you from? I'm from here, dude. And they're like, what do you mean? Yeah, like when this used to be, part of Mexico, my family's already here. Oh, I thought you were new immigrants. Like, dude, you're literally from the other side of the world. You're from Asia. Literally.
Yeah.
That's what kills me.
And it's funny how sometimes those kind of folks are usually the more hardcore.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. It's like, dude, literally, your family's from the other side of the world. You have no culture or history here.
Yeah, exactly.
But well.
It's wild. My brother, this isn't the last time we're gonna be doing a show. We'll have to do another one down the road, man. But this was a lot of fun, man.
Yeah.
I know the folks enjoyed it. I saw a lot of people saying we need Robert to come back.
Hey,
they still
Ezra.
call you Robert, but it's Ezra. God damn it, get it right.
Get it right. You know what? Let's make it a theme. Every time, if I come back again, it'll be Robert, and then the following episode will be Ezra.
Well, it'll be chorizo breath.
Yeah.
Pipe layer 69.
So cool arrow.
So cool. That's our younger brother's screen tag gamer name is Soy Cool Arrow. Cool and then arrow. But if you say it fast, that means culero, which translates to asshole. So it's a play on words. Hell yeah, man, that was great, man. I feel we covered a shit ton of ground, and I know everyone enjoyed that. And I don't know, do you want to send people somewhere, or did you build an Ezra Instagram or something where people can find you, or
No.
should we leave it at that?
I will stay anonymous for a while.
Yeah, let's do that.
I'm
That's
working on
fine.
a project.
Because you staying anonymous helps me stay anonymous. All right, Ezra. That was a lot of fun, man. Hope everyone enjoyed it. Everyone enjoy your Sunday, and we'll catch you next weekend. All right, y'all. Hugs and kisses to all.